It's not often I get to spend time on the ice with guys of this talent. Justin Kohn to my left, Korey Sprengel to my right. Oh yeah, and Chase Parsons too.
Really? Unbelievable.
We're out here on Green Lake in Wisconsin, and we're going to try for some of the big Lakers that are out here. There's all kinds of year classes, and so we're going to give it a try. Justin's been out here quite a bit this winter, and it's been pretty decent, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't like to lake trout fish in dangerous situations. It's nice to come here where I feel a little bit safer. And I don't want to go all the way up into Canada either. So come and join us, and you too can get your next bite.
Just looking for the next bite, next bite, next bite. Just looking for the next bite.
And I tell you what, the monsters are in here.
You know, this is a popular fishing area with all these lakes around here.
The next bite.
The next bite.
There are very few inland lakes in what historically has been known to Alaskans as the lower 48 states of North America that hold lake trout. Lake trout are even more rare in the Midwest because there are hardly any bodies of water that are deep enough with the right temperatures and forage. In fact, there are few of these special fisheries that even sport decent access. Big Green Lake near Princeton, Wisconsin is one of these elusive, deep, and clear systems that lake trout can thrive in.
So over the last 20 years that I've been avidly fishing lake trout out here, I've seen it cycle. Big fish numbers, bait fish numbers. Right now, I feel like there's a lot of smaller fish in here, which there's also a lot of bait fish in here. So a few years from now, we're gonna get right back into that lots of big fish again. So we're catching a lot of eater-sized fish, great action, and there's always a shot at a 20-pounder.
Although the monster lake trout are in their rebuilding phase post-bait fish burnout,
Do some real quick.
the existing size class of up-and-coming lakers do make excellent table fare. Just be sure to check with the current regulations on limits set to protect these near-future lunkers.
Coming from so far down, it's tough to tell. He felt bigger at first. Now he doesn't feel quite as big, but oh yeah. Yep. Come on, buddy. There we go. Not a giant, but I mean, we actually came up just a little bit on the break here, so I'm actually only sitting in 90 feet, which seems kind of weird to say, only 90 feet. Legal one for the lake, but we're gonna let them go today.
So out here in Green Lake in late winter months, you can target structure, which is rock humps out in 160 feet of water. You can target all sizes of fish out there. But midday, you get out in these 150, 160 flats, and that's where those bigger fish kind of fall off of that break and they hang out in the mud until they want to shoot back up in there and grab some more Cisco's to eat. But we're looking for a big bite right now, so we're just pounding the mud out here in the 150-foot area, not too far from their favorite food, the Cisco.
Got one, boys! Wow, it's a long way for them to come up. Get that transducer out of there. My hole laced up a little bit too. It's not a real big one, I don't think. He just hammered it. Brought him right up off the bottom. And when he started coming, I just reeled away from him pretty fast and he couldn't take it. He just came up and drilled it. Ooh, there she goes.
Is it a decent one, GP?
No, I don't think it's a real big one. But I'll tell you what, when you're fishing for fish, for lake trout, you got a lot of time to fight. If you like something jerking on the end of your rod, oh, it's fun. Oh, here's the leader. Oh, come on, baby. Yeah, there he is. Oh, yeah, nice fish. Whew. Man, take my gloves off before they get all slimed up. He's not a giant, but he's a pretty decent fish. And boy, he hammered it. Yeah, there we go. Pretty nice fish. I'm gonna get him back right away so that he can make her down. You get to go back. There we go.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Tracker boats. Fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Berkeley. Catch more fish. And Power Pole. Total boat control. Closed captioning for the next bite is provided by Precision Trolling Data, the authority for crankbait diving depth information.
So what you want to pay attention to is basically your graph setup when you're fishing over deep water like this. Obviously, it's not what we're used to doing. A lot of times we're in 15, 20, 30 feet when we're going after walleyes. But as you can see, we're actually out here in about 155 feet of water. So very, very deep water. Most of the fish that we're seeing on the graph are near the bottom. You're going to want to jig maybe 15, 20 feet up off the bottom, and they'll come up and get it. So you'll actually see that I have the bottom here zoomed in, actually 5 times, so I can easily see my jig that far down. Also see the fish and how they're reacting to the bait. But the important thing that you're going to want to make sure you have, be able to see the entire water column. There's a lot of these fish, you got to remember, they're following schools of Cisco out here on Green Lake, and so they might come in at 60, 70, 80 feet down, and you're obviously not going to see that on the zoomed in side. So make sure you're able to see the entire water column as well, because these open water suspended fish, you can absolutely reel your lure up to them. So if you're marking some at 70 feet, quick rip that lure up there and jig and see if you can get those fish to commit.
Covering the immense water column is one thing, but sometimes enticing these big Green Lake trout to commit on a lure beyond simple curiosity is a whole other ball game.
There's so many that come up, chase you, give you a look, and swim away. And get used to being rejected when you're targeting lake trout. But you got to get them following before you can get them to bite, so you got to play with them. Fish on! Feeling good. Stay hooked, buddy. Stay hooked. Yeah, it feels like a real good one. They fight so hard. Even a 3 or 4 pounder feels like a 10 pounder. Oh yeah. Got him. Nice lake trout. I had a couple hot ones come in, and it's all about teasing it away from them. I was taking it up. I took it at least 10 feet away from it, and it really fired him up. He came up and he just smashed it. But what a great fish. They're so much fun. Away he goes.
Total Control, presented by Power Pole. 20 years of trust evolved from Total Boat Control.
You know, when I reflect over the last couple of years and look at all the questions that people give us here at the Next Bite, one of the most asked questions is, what kind of rods do you guys use, rods and reels? And so I just want to state right out of the chute is that Bass Pro and Cabela's make a wonderful lineup of walleye rods. They're called the Prodigy series, and there's a rod basically for every technique that we use. I'm going to pick 2 of my favorites today because these rods spend a lot of time in my hands. The first one is my jig stick. This is a Prodigy 6-foot 3-inch medium light action. And it's a great jig stick. It's got plenty of backbone for setting hooks. It's got a nice flexible tip for pitching light jigs. I'll use it for jigs anywhere from a 16th ounce all the way up to 3/8 ounce. I couple that with a Johnny Morris Signature Series reel. This is the smallest one that you can get. Overall, the setup's really lightweight. And so this rod spends a lot of time in my hands, especially earlier in the year when I'm pitching jigs. The second rod that I'm going to mention as one of my favorites is the 610 medium extra fast tip. This is more of a heavy-duty type rod, not from a standpoint as being a heavy rod, but it handles larger lures like 1-ounce shiver minnows or 3/4-ounce blade baits. It's 6'10", it's very stiff through the backbone. So if I have a fish that's way out there on a shiver minnow cast, I can get that hook set right in its mouth. But yet when I'm fighting the fish, it's got an extra fast tip. So essentially, we really can fight the fish well. I couple this rod with a Johnny Morris Signature Series Titanium size 2000. Basically need to have enough line capacity so you don't want to run down to the end of your spool. So this setup is just about perfect. It's lightweight enough you can cast all day long, and yet it handles those heavy baits quite well. So overall, the Prodigy series is a great lineup, and those are two of my favorites.
The only time lake trout come shallow is during the fall for their spawning period.
Slippery little buggers.
Chase! Fish on!
The rest of their time is spent hunting forage
I'm gonna keep fishing. I think you can handle that.
from down in the deep, colder water. In fact, it's the deep water factor.
There's a really good population of smaller fish out here right now, and plenty of big ones too.
And the potential power and energy of these predators that sets the stage for what you are going to need out on the ice.
I actually put a stinger hook on and finally got a hook in one.
Just like to take a second here and talk a little bit about the rod and reel setup and the line that you're going to use for these Green Lake Lakers. Essentially a heavy-duty walleye rig will work, anything from medium to medium heavy, pretty good stiff backbone, and that would even be a little bit on the lighter side if you'd hang into one of those 15, 20, 25-pound fish that are swimming in here. When I say the same type of rod and reel that you use for walleyes, the one change that you're going to want to look at is going to a bigger reel. I went from a size 1000 or 1500 series reel to this Johnny Morris 2000 size, and that's because of line capacity. We're fishing some pretty deep depths here, anywhere from 70 feet all the way down to 175, 180 feet. So you've got to have enough line capacity to be able to reach the bottom, and if you hang one of those big fish, to stand the drag being pulled out so they don't spool you. I couple that with Fireline Ultra 8 Carrier from Berkeley. It's a super tough line. It's also very thin diameter, and in Green Lake you don't have a tremendous amount of current, so you can use lighter lures, but if you use too thick of line, it'll take them forever to get to the bottom. I couple that then with, instead of a 10-pound leader like I'd use for walleyes, I go to a 15-pound 100% fluorocarbon. It's tough stuff. It will take the edges of the ice when you're trying to land your fish if they're thrashing their heads around, but it's also a little bit stronger, and being fluorocarbon, they don't really see it. It doesn't affect the number of bites that you get.
Lake trout and walleye have a few different environmental requirements. It's actually kind of rare to find both species sharing water outside of reservoirs. However, lake trout do exhibit more aggressive predatory tendencies, as is the case with walleye. Lake trout tend to prefer other fish or even larger fish as a meal instead of the traditional insects, plankton, or tiny fish often sought out by their river-based trout brethren.
They get a lot bigger than this. In fact, the big ones out here probably eat ones this size, but you know what? It was a lot of fun.
Out here on Big Green, there's a few different types of fish that seem to come in on the electronics. And a lot of times I like to change up my cadence a little bit depending on what those fish are doing. If those fish are super inactive, what I actually do is I like to get a little more aggressive. I'm trying to fire that fish up. Those other types of fish that are very interested, the first thing I like to do is start immediately going away from them. If they're coming towards me, I want to go away from them. So it's that instant trigger. It's a lot of times I'll make that fish come up even faster, thinking it's going to get away, and you kind of start to slow it down, let it catch up. So it's one of those things you really want to read when that fish is coming in on your electronics, what the mood of the fish is. This is, I think, a pretty good fish here. I mean, I missed him about 3 times before I finally got the hooks in him. You know, it's crazy with even those small baits that they just can't seem to get them in their mouth. Plus you give them 100 feet of water to work with, it changes the game a little bit. And there's no give up in these lake trout. This is where it's just really important to have a smooth drag. Just trying to keep steady pressure. There's leader. Come on. Oh, here he is. Come on. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was a fun fish there. I mean, just talk about battle. Even out of the hole. I mean, that's just one of those awesome size lake trout. I mean, they just, there's nothing better than the way they chase it. I mean, it's 20 feet of water, or 20 feet through the water column to chase your bait up. They'll go back down 10 feet and race up another 20 more feet. And it's just one of those things where, you know, it's all about speed. You're trying to trigger that fish, that bait's trying to get away from them. They're used to traveling through the water very fast to chase after ciscos and things like that. So being very erratic is how you really trigger these lake trout. They're super fast, so you can, you know, be, you know, really aggressive with your jigging. When you finally get one hooked up, it's a rush because you lose so many fish with how hard these fish fight.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Tracker Boats, fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, your adventure starts here. Berkeley, catch more fish. Lowrance, find, navigate, dominate. Precision trolling data, the authority in diving depth info. Strike King, a legacy of domination for 50 years. And Power Pole, total boat control. Topics, leading information, and tackle and techniques to make you a better angler. Presented by Mercury.
Well, it's been about a year, 1 year since they came out with a new lineup of Mercury 4-strokes. And I've been really lucky. I've got to run several of the engines. I ran the 150, run this 225. Chase had a 300 on his ZV20. All of them have been really super impressive. So what makes them so impressive? I think what you got to do is go back in history a little and look at 4-strokes in general. When 4-strokes came out years ago, what people liked about them is that they were very smooth running and that they got really good gas mileage. These new engines are no different. Smooth running, really good gas mileage. But some of the issues that they had early on were things like they were heavy and they didn't have very good hole shot and torque. Well, those are also cured with this new line of 4-strokes. Mercury has done several things to improve performance overall. First of all, they make these engines now with what's called high displacement. That just means everything in the engine is bigger, the cylinders, the pistons, and so every time that motor strokes, it's going to put a lot more power down to the prop. So you're not going to see that sluggish hole shot. You're going to see an unreal hole shot. You're going to see good top end power. They also made the engine a lot lighter by using high-tech materials. So especially on aluminum boats like this one, you don't want a lot of weight in the transom. It just makes that boat sit funny. These are nice and lightweight to give it optimal performance. So when you're looking at a 4-stroke, these new engines give you everything you want. They're lightweight, they're smooth running, they've got the high displacement to give you low end torque for hole shot and wave running, but great top end speed, and they got great gas mileage to get you all over the lake.
When targeting bigger fish, the notion is to reach for bigger lures. So while bigger can sometimes be better, bigger also isn't always best. These green lake trout have been chasing big spoons.
Oh, there we go.
Larger jigs with a stinger hook.
Could do this all day long. Let's get this guy back and try for another one.
But also smaller glide baits.
A little Johnny Darter action. Small one. Yeah, it's one that Korey's been catching even big ones with.
So far, with the more aggressive fish hitting the former 3 and the more skittish ones biting the latter, the smaller glide bait.
A lot of times you think these big lake trout, you want a bigger bait, you know, you're gonna, you know, do better, get more bites. But a lot of times, ice fishing, it's not so the case. It seems to be that a lot of times they want this that little bit smaller profile.
While the lead used in these lures is what allows for fishing such smaller profiles still in the deeper water.
There he is.
One really key trick is to upgrade your hook size to aid into hanging on to these bullish lakers once you've got them to commit.
I just can't gate on him.
Ooh, you better have a big one.
This is a better fish here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Let's get that transducer out.
Get that out of the way.
There we go. Oh, man. It kind of reminds me of 2 years ago when we were in the boat catching these things, huh?
Well, he must have a short memory because his rod's a little shorter.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. It's just super cool. I mean, a lake right here, right in the middle of Wisconsin. You can come and catch these lakers. Inland lakers is super cool.
It's definitely a change of pace. Oh, I think here's the leader.
Where is he? There he is. There he is. Come on up. There we go. Yeah. Look at that thing.
I mean, that was a long battle.
You had me shaking. I wasn't even fighting
it. Longer
it.
than my rod chase.
Hey, you know what? I don't think you were going to lose him. You had that back hook, little Johnny Darter like that. Oh, look at that thing, man.
That's so fun.
Nice
90
job.
feet of water. I mean, it was a battle.
You said he came streaking up from the bottom and just smoked
Probably
it
20
up.
feet. I mean, I was marking a fish 20 feet off the bottom. I raced up to that one. This one came from the bottom and just crushed it.
Well.
There's no mess around. That was fun.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome.
Where all sizes of fish, I gotta start over.
Break.
Inland Lake, but I don't know, Justin, that it gets all that, much publicity. Let's try this.
It might have a new title.
Like you like each other a little bit.
Ooh. I don't get. Let's try this again.
Got another one. Yes. Took me by surprise. Oh, he got off.
Really long torso.
Long torso. I'm 20% man and 80% torso. Just eat it. Are you for real right now? Are you for real, Lake Trout? You for real? Are you for real?
The Next Bite would like to thank Justin Kohn of All Seasons Adventures and the Acorn Ridge Motel. Justin Kohn specializes in many different species in Green Lake County. For more information on Justin Kohn and All Seasons Adventures, please visit justinkohn.com. If you would like to book a comfortable, clean, and spacious room at the Acorn Ridge Motel, please call 920-295-6533.